things that get in the way, things that keep us from struggling and from trying in the spiritual life. And mostly to this point, she has spoken to us about stumbling blocks which originate where? Which originate, brothers and sisters, in ourselves. Stumbling blocks that originate in ourselves. These are the things she's been speaking about largely in the past few weeks. Particularly, she spoke to us about a couple of thoughts that get into our mind and keep us from trying and from struggling. The first thought you'll remember from a few weeks ago was all or nothing. I'm not going to do it perfectly or well, so I might as well not do it at all. That was the first thought. The second thought was what? I can't. I can't. She said that we need to get rid of these two thoughts, these two internal stumbling blocks to spiritual struggle, and she gave us various arguments to use against them to get them out of our mind. However, when she treated the internal stumbling blocks, she also alluded to the fact that there are also some external stumbling blocks, things that come from outside us, from outside ourselves, which try to keep us from struggling and therefore winning for ourselves God's compassion and mercy. When she listed some of the reasons, particularly why we say, I can't, do you remember what she said? Do you remember what she said? Let me remind you. All day long the evil one holds us captive and will not let us go, making us see even very small matters as huge, unbearable burdens. So then, brothers and sisters, in the spiritual life, we are doing more than working against ourselves and against our passions, against our laziness, against our indifference, against our sloth. We are also working at the same time against the evil one, that is to say, the devil and the demons. Today, writes the Holy Apostle Paul, or truly rather writes the Holy Apostle Paul, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this dark age, and against the evil spirits. Now this is a basic Christian belief, and it is impossible to understand the spiritual life and to properly undertake spiritual struggle for our salvation if we ignore this reality. Someone once rightly observed, the devil's greatest victory has been to convince the world that he does not exist. The devil's greatest victory has been to convince the world that he does not exist. It would be sort of like if the Allies in World War II went to war with the Japanese but simply ignored the Germans. It would have left them very vulnerable. And so forgetting about the demons and their warfare leaves us extremely vulnerable in the spiritual life. We're only fighting one half of our enemy. So that is the first lesson we gather from Gerontissa today. In her teachings, she presupposes that the demons exist and accounts for them when she offers us advice. But just how involved are the demons when it comes to trying to get us to abandon our struggle in the spiritual life? The crafty devil, she says, goes around continually looking for an opportunity to distract us. The crafty devil goes around continually looking for an opportunity to distract us. She continues, do you remember the miracle that happened here at the Barns, when our monastery priest read the holy water service, and as he chanted, Save, O Lord, thy people 3 times, the animals all stood on their hind legs and watched us over the wall? She's referring to some miracle that happened at the monastery, where the animals, when the priest was serving the holy water service, blessing holy water, all the animals reared up on their back legs and paid attention to what was going on, looking over the tops of the fences. But then she adds this observation. This, over the fence, is how the devil watches us. He is continually peering at us over the fence, ready to strike us down and to stick his nose into our business. For this reason, the Holy Apostle Peter writes, your adversary, the devil, roams about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Emphasis, brothers and sisters, on the roaming. He's always watching, always moving, that he might trip us up. And concerning the precision of the devil's attacks, Gerontissa was granted a vision. Listen to her humility as she recounts this vision. God reveals these things to me, she says, because of my position, so I can guide you. She doesn't attribute any of the revelation she receives to her own holiness, to her piety, to her virtue. She says, it's only because I have to guide you. God understands that I have the care of your souls, and so he teaches me things so that I can teach you. Humility. And what exactly is this vision that Gerontissa is speaking of? She says, I saw a giant ox with bulging eyes, flaming eyes, wearing a fustanella, that is it's a skirt, a part of the ancient Greek dress, full of needles. The ox was thrashing around and creating so much havoc that it was beyond description. With these needles attached to it, it would wound each of us and throw us down according to the passions of each. When I saw this, it was so terrible that I could hardly sleep, even though I was sick at the time. Now the giant ox, with flaming eyes, causing all the upset that Gerontissa saw in her vision, represents, brothers and sisters, the devil. And what does the devil do? He would prick and wound each sister, she says, according to their own particular passions. From observation, then, he knows our weaknesses. He knows the things we're addicted to. He knows the sins we've pulled towards by virtue of our bad habits. And he tries deliberately to place temptations before us that exploit the weaknesses we have created. One, for example, has a passion for food. Another has a passion for pleasure. Another has a passion for slander. Another has a passion for judgment. The demons know these things from watching us, and they try very deliberately to lure us into committing these sins to which we are inclined already. But what, I wonder, is his success rate? Listen carefully to what Gerontissa of blessed memory says. If we think about what the devil does to us and what we lose, we will weep all day and all night. The evil one defeats us so often. He deprives us of so much grace that she says we would weep all day and all night if only we had any sense of it. But most of us don't feel it because of the hardness of our hearts. The devil, then, is a pervasive presence in the spiritual life and an enemy of Christian struggle. But most of his work isn't done in big, flashy ways. When we think of the devil and we think of his intervention in human affairs, our mind, because of stupid movies, automatically gets drifted to particular scenes. Pea soup, head spinning, and all this stuff. Don't get me wrong. Possession is indeed a real phenomenon. But when should we be most concerned about encountering the demons and the devil? It is, brothers and sisters, Gerontissa Makrina says, in small things. He wants to trap us by getting us to do 1,000,000 small things that separate us from God. And so how do we repel the devil then, if this is his method? Gerontissa tells us, by being watchful and careful in small things. Not giving him room to move in our life, to squeeze in and influence us. So what does this look like in practice? Brothers and sisters, be careful not to miss your prayer rule. Be careful not to stay away from Holy Communion out of laziness. You should want to commune regularly. Be careful not to miss church on Sunday for any reason but absolute sickness. Be careful not to come late to liturgy. Be careful not to miss Sunday school. Brothers and sisters, we are not being careful enough in these small things. These small things, we are leaving room for the devil to operate in our lives and tempt us. Be careful in those small things, and you will chase him out of your lives. What else? First, we should think, Gerontissa says, and then we should express what we want to say logically, calmly, kindly, and with meekness and the love of God. I.e., be careful not to blurt things out. Don't just say what your passions push you to say. That is, Let us be extremely careful, she says. Let us be extremely careful. We don't squeeze the devil out, brothers and sisters, by grand gestures and great confrontations, as we sometimes think. We do it by squeezing him out with carefulness in many small things. By carefulness and with God's help, he is left powerless over us. But we have to, brothers and sisters, be careful. Amen.